Welcome to the Neo News Today podcast. I'm your host, Dylan of Neo News Today. In episode 43 of the NNT pod, I had a chance to sit down and speak with Claude Müller and Dr. Guilherme Machado of AxLabs, a developer community in the Neo ecosystem responsible for building and maintaining the Neo3j Java SDK. In this episode, Claude, Gil, and I talked about the background of Neo3j and the Java developer experience, the various products in the AxLabs suite, integrating the work of other Neo developer communities into their products, what blockchain mass adoption might look like, plus much more. So I hope you enjoy listening to this conversation as much as I enjoyed having it. Hey guys, what's going on? Dylan with the Neo News Today podcast. Today we are speaking with Dr. Guilherme Machado and Claude Müller, senior software engineers at AxLabs, the team responsible for working on and maintaining the Neo3j product suite. So how are you guys doing today?
Good, great, fine.
Yeah, not very nice weather here in Zurich, but we're doing great, yeah.
Yeah, we just got a little bit of snow here the other day in Denver, so it's starting to get a little chilly. I do want to let the listeners know that this is the first time we're having two guests on the pod, so this is a special episode. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining us today and making time, especially with the time difference. So jumping right into this, Gil, you're a returning guest, but to refresh the minds of our listeners, how long have you been working on projects and products in the Neo ecosystem, and what is your primary project?
Okay, so I started developing in the Neo ecosystem in mid 2018, when I just start the Neo3j project. And then on 2019, I think, in the beginning, early on, we got introduced as an officially community, AxLabs, with the Neo3j project. Currently, mainly we have the Neo3j. We started as an SDK back then, but then it's moving towards on a set of tools and products, let's say, like a compiler or other tools for the Java ecosystem, and probably more than only the Java. It's we expanding this development experience tooling for the Neo. Yeah.
Awesome. We'll jump into the compiler here in a minute. I did just want to highlight for our listeners again, what languages is Neo3j built for?
So, primarily, it's we just started in Java back then, but then we just realized that the need of Kotlin, for example, that gained momentum in the software industry. Not only because the Oracle Google battle, but because also the support of Android, the explicit support of Android, so we just thought, okay, let's go to this direction. So Neo3j now it's also officially supported for Kotlin. Also, you can use in Scala. We haven't released the official support for Scala, but you can use it. And I believe we never tried, but I believe also in Groovy or any kind of JVM, Java virtual machine based language. Yeah.
Awesome. And before we delve a little bit further into the products that Neo3j has been working on, I think this is the first time that, at least I know for sure on the podcast, but maybe beyond some Neo News Today writing, that we're introducing Claude to the ecosystem, but you're not a stranger to the ecosystem. You've been working with Gil on Neo3j for multiple years at this point. If people look in the GitHub, they'll see your handle. So, Claude, can you tell us a little bit about what your background is and what the work you do with AxLabs and on Neo3j looks like?
Sure. So my background is first I was just doing business software. I was a software engineer for since I left my studies and while I was studying as well. And I joined Gil almost 2 years ago now.
Yes.
So it was beginning of 2019, yeah. When Gil realized that we need more people to help with the Neo3j project, and I got interested in distributed systems through the blockchain hype, especially in the time of the ICO hype.
True.
I really got into that. We started doing a project in that time for ICOs, and that's where we got to know each other.
Absolutely.
And then yeah, of course, like we knew each other already, and so it was clear that I was looking for something else already. Wanted to get out of business software. I was a bit boring there, and then I came to Neo. And in the Neo3j project, I started working with the SDK first. That was the only thing we had at the beginning. The SDK now is only my side work. So after the first year or so, I moved on then to the compiler. The SDK is pretty solid now, so I could move on to the compiler, which is now I'm the main guy for the compiler now. And there's a third guy. I don't know if he will come up in a discussion, but there's Michi Bucher as well. He's helping us with maintaining the SDK at the moment, so I can focus more on the compiler. Yeah.
Very cool. I want to delve into the compiler in a moment because it's kind of a big deal that you guys built this from scratch. But I also wanted to acknowledge a recent shift that Neo News Today listeners and readers and just anybody who pays attention to Neo's monthly reports, Neo3j was touted as Neo3j in the monthly reports, and now the monthly reports state that it's AxLabs that's in charge of maintaining the SDK and the other products in the suite. So, Gil, could you just briefly touch upon what the relationship is between AxLabs and Neo3j?
So, absolutely. This was a long discussion, actually. So, I think I mentioned in the other podcast, Dylan, that we got by the Neo ecosystem, not by chance, but we just did something cool, like the Neo3j project. We published, and then suddenly we got absorbed by the new ecosystem, to be a community, etc. And in that time, Neo3j was our project, our baby. So that's why we got introduced by Neo3j. But as the time passes by and we acquire knowledge on Neo, NewVM, and other projects, and we see opportunities on helping the new blockchain, we realize that maybe we go to expand to other products or to other tools or having this education kind of point. That we're not only doing Neo3j, but we are touching other parts of the whole ecosystem. So that's when we thought, okay, we need a kind of umbrella community or umbrella that will kind of host our tools, our projects, and that's AxLabs basically. So AxLabs, we're a team of 3 guys, and we're passionate about development experience mainly, not only open source projects, and that's how this was transitioned, I would say, to that now AxLabs is this umbrella of projects, including and maintaining mainly now Neo3j project.
Awesome. Before we kind of delve into some specifics with Claude, Gil, could you just share a brief overview of what the major highlights and milestones were with the Neo3j version 3.3 release, and maybe some of the new additions?
Yes, absolutely. Just I remember a talk with Longfei. I think you were being there as well, right, Claude? So Longfei from NGD, Steven was also in the call. They just came to us and said, Gil, Claude, you're doing a great work with on going to the Neo3j compiler and releasing tools for Neo3, but we need a major milestone for around October, because that's when the testnet will become more mature. We need like a more traction, and and then said, oh, this is kind of challenging, but okay. So what do you like to see? What do you think that people would like to see? And then they said, we want to develop a token, a NEP5 token or a NEP11 non-fungible token standard with Neo3j. Do you think that is possible? And we just looked to each other, like me and Claude, and said, kind of challenging, but we're gonna make it work. So that's the story to tell you. One of the milestones is with the Neo3j release, the 3.30. You can write a contract, NEP5 token targeting Neo3. You have like all the features of storage, etc. Already inside. So now you can properly write a smart contract with all those features targeting Neo3. That's basically the summary.
Yeah, it looks really cool. Edge kind of gave me like a 20-minute walkthrough the other day and just kind of showed me some of the great work that you guys have done. So Claude, it seems from what I've been able to gather that you were mostly responsible for a lot of the development of the compiler and the dev pack. So not every listener for Neo News Today is a software engineer or a developer. So could you just like very basically like explain like I'm five, what a compiler is and kind of why developing it was a big deal?
All right. Yeah, that's always good. This is the same question that I get on parties, and I got to admit I've never really went through the work to actually have a story to tell, which everybody gets. But so I get another chance here to try this. So first of all, well, maybe that's already technical, but I wouldn't. So in the end, it's not a whole compiler, right? So what we do is we take what we have from the Java language. Mm-hmm. That is being compiled by whatever Java is already offering us tools. And then we take the compiled code and we convert it to Neo so that we can run it on the Neo blockchain. That's what all the compilers do inside of the Neo ecosystem. And ours is not different. And so yeah, what the converter or compiler does, it's basically, maybe if you do it very abstract, you have two countries. They have different cultures and different languages, and one country has a law for some goods, and maybe you want to trade these goods between these countries, and you have to then adapt these laws and bring it into the other country, convert them or translate them into that culture, so that they work there as well, and they can both then start trading. That's for the 5 years old version. So that's removing all technicalities, even removing computers.
Well, I understood it, so you did a really good job.
That's cool. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
So Edge kind of pointed out the importance of this. Basically, the compiler makes it a lot easier for a Java developer to kind of jump in and be able to build a smart contract for a token, or there's a lot of other examples that you put in there. So where did you draw your inspiration for the examples and the templates that you put into the compiler? Were there people within the community that were reaching out and asking for these templates, or was it just through the work that you did building the compiler from scratch, you recognized potential need for all these examples?
So there's like both things that you said there. So when you implement the compiler, you realize all the different cases you have to cover, right? And then you already start playing with contracts to see if the compiler is actually working, and you write tests and also all these things. And so some of the examples come out of the work on the compiler itself. And then of course you see what the community or what products are out there already on other blockchains, for example, or on other inside of Neo compiled with other compilers. And you can see what examples will we have to be able to compile. And so we took it from different sources. We collected these examples. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool to watch Edge walk through the playground. I can tell that there's nuances in the language, but there was a lot of similarities that I saw from Neo 1 as well. So it was really cool to kind of see for TypeScript and then for Java, these different applications that make it much easier for the developer to be able to just jump into the ecosystem and start building something from scratch.
Yeah,
Now,
exactly.
yeah, so my question to you then is, you were building this compiler from the bottom up. So what did a Java compiler for Neo 3 teach you about the upcoming Neo 3 protocol?
That's a good question.
Yeah, very good question. So we didn't do the compiler for Neo 2. So we started implementing the compiler immediately for Neo 3. So the differences between Neo 2 and Neo 3 are, from the compiler standpoint, are not obvious to me. So I can't really give you much of an answer for that question, because I don't really know what on the VM side. I know the VM from Neo 3 now, but not from Neo 2. So I don't know much about improvements from Neo 2 to Neo 3 on the virtual machine.
If there's something that kind of stood out from the work that you've done to prepare us for Neo 3, what's one thing that was kind of really interesting as you were building the compiler up that just kind of like jumped out at you?
Well, basically, because we're always focused on developer experiences, then what was most important, I think, is that we have these tools that have been built by Harry and Neo Foundation that allow you to develop in Visual Studio Code. And so it was very important that we can integrate our compiler and our development pack into that already existing toolkit. And so which, for example, now the next release will add the debugging information, so you can debug through the Java smart contracts, and this is something obviously very tightly coupled with what Harry is providing.
Yeah, this is a very good add-on, actually. Just to add here, it's because sometimes people ask us, still they ask us, like, why Java? Why you're doing this? Why choose this language? And in the blockchain, like, the Java language is not very, how can I say, very sexy. But we just believe that this Java ecosystem, you have like a lot of users still, and but our point is, we have to integrate more and more to what the others are developing in the new ecosystem. So the debugger is a good example. The new Express is a good example. We're going to talk in a moment maybe about the new playground. So this is something that is pretty valuable, in my opinion. But yeah.
That's actually a perfect transition, because one of the questions Edge had when he was walking me through the playground was, he asked, was this built using the Neo blockchain toolkit?
So you mean like the new playground or okay? So the new playground, the new playground is a whole different story, right, Dylan? It's not even we just did as anything that we started in the new blockchain ecosystem. We just spent some not free time, but some fun time doing something, exposing to other people, get the feedback, and then we see if people like it or not. So like today, you're giving me surprisingly like very good feedback. Oh, I've checked this in the new playground, and I played with Meow3J in the new playground, and it's, oh, that's nice, that's great. So it seems that people are using it, and it's important. But to answer directly your question, no, at the moment we didn't integrate yet the new blockchain toolkit, but we have plans for the near future to integrate with the new playground. But I don't know if the listeners, the audience, like, know what is the new playground. But I mean, we're talking about new playground already. So
well, can we then? I gathered that the Neo playground was something that you were working on, Claude. So could you tell us a little bit about what the Neo playground is and kind of what the goal is?
So first, I have to rectify that most work came from Guile into Neo Playground. So we have to separate the compiler here from the Neo Playground,
Okay.
right? Of course, inside of what we can see and internally we have seen about the Neo Playground, it already incorporated the compiler and the dev pack for Java tools. But yeah, Neo Playground is a total new story, and this is. I will give the word to Guilherme soon, but
no. You have to tell. Now I'm curious.
Like I could see, like you were already you liked it apparently. So this is Neo Playground is what we in the future want to show to newcomers and to the developers as the first thing, right? The compiler and the dev pack, that's kind of in the background. It also has to work, of course, but what you see first is in the end should be the Neo Playground, and
Yeah, it's basically an easy access to the newcomers. So imagine you, Dylan. Like you want to start getting started with the Neo3j, the compiler that Claude is mainly responsible for developing. So how you get access? You have two options. Either you install the tooling of the Neo3j, set up like a Java project, import the compiler. Use the dev pack also from Neo3j, and then you install this tooling locally. Besides that, you have to install also a new node, a new 3 node. So you have this option, which is the natural option for a developer to get started. But what if you have an option, a better way to get access to this tooling? So that's exactly what we built, the New Playground. So it's a browser-based IDE. You just go there, say, I want to choose this template, these examples. I'm going to create a playground. Then a container gets instantiated in the cloud. And then you start playing. You have all the tools already installed, your VS Code, Visual Studio Code installed. You have the Neo3j compiler inside already, Java, the correct version. So it's pretty easy for, tutorials, workshops, try things out. Maybe in future, something, Claude, that we had the other day. Sometimes you have to show people that the VM has maybe a glitch or a small issue on a smart contract. How usually do it in the Nux system? You just have, in the issue there, in the GitHub issue, like the description, I tried to develop this smart contract, it's not working in my machine, and then okay, you open the issue. Then what is the next question? The next question is, can you tell us what is the version that you use? What is the new node version? What is the compiler version? So imagine that you can go, when you open an issue, you just go to a New Playground, do your smart contract, reproduce an issue or a problem or a situation, a scenario, and then you copy this New Playground URL, paste it in the issue, and then people can easily click and reproduce what you exactly see in your machine. So this is pretty powerful in our opinion. So that's the whole idea of the New Programmer.
Yeah, it was really cool I'm not the most technical oriented individual, but just to have Edge run through it and just kind of like point out what was going on, it seemed kind of intuitive for me, and I'm not much of a coder at all. So I thought that the Playground is a really cool thing that you guys have produced. And I kind of want to shift the conversation as we start to wrap up from a lot of this, the small scale of the great work that you guys have done. And I just want to pick your brain about Android market penetration. Currently, the general population of the world, most of applications that people use are on the mobile phone. So if blockchain is ever going to go quote unquote mainstream, do you guys agree that it's potentially mobile apps that are the path to mainstream adoption? And if so, or if not, why or why not?
So I agree. Yeah, I think that that mobile apps will be very important in the broad adoption of blockchain technologies. And I see it in myself. Like 2 years ago, I mean, I'm a developer, but I try to stay away from a lot of technology in my personal life, but now I'm not anymore. So now I use my smartphone quite a lot each day, and I think other people are much worse than me. So, so definitely everything that you can, like I'm gonna change my bank account soon to a mobile-only bank, for example, right? And if it's about financial services, there's already a lot going on only on mobile. I kind of fear this change from like I can't even use my browser for my bank anymore. I can only use my smartphone, but I mean I will go with that and it will be fine. And the same thing for blockchain applications. I think there will be a lot of applications only for mobile, and that will help obviously spread blockchain technology.
Do you think, Claude, that maybe a question just for a discussion? Do you think that maybe the private keys or like the power of making the transaction will be directly in your phone, or this will be external from your phone and your phone will be just like a kind of a way to get there? I don't know. I'm just brainstorming a bit,
Yeah, so I hope not. I hope not that the private key material will be on your phone.
Okay.
Of course, if you have, like I have two phones, two broken ones, but one of them I use regularly and the other one I could use as a cold storage for private keys. So then I would be fine with having my keys on the phone, but that phone will not be connected to the internet at any time. But then usually I think banks will, old banks and new banks, they will shift to custody, but not of assets, but of private keys. And so you will not have your keys on your phone, but your bank will keep your keys safe for you, and you will have to interface with them.
Yeah. Or another possibility, and that's what I like a lot, is new ways that all these hardware wallets interface with your phone or with your devices. I think this is pretty interesting, because I think we're just discussing the other day, Claude. There's different ways of transmitting data, to other devices. Like you have Bluetooth, you have like wireless, you have NFC, but you have like sound as well. This is I already talked to some people, like colleagues, and they said, "Oh, I have a Ledger Nano X. I think it's called Ledger Nano X, where you have the Bluetooth functionality that you can just tap to my phone, and then I can interact with a wallet or that, on the phone. But Gil, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable yet, to have these Bluetooth connections." And ask why? Yeah, because I don't know how they transmit. I don't know if it's encrypted. I don't feel safe. And so I think that for the broad adoption of mobile dApps, it also for the blockchain space, I think it will, like this way of communicating with your hardware wallet. It should be easier, better, safer. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's an interesting use case that you brought up, Claude. That we're moving away from banking and brick and mortar, and even further away from banking on our laptops, and now it's becoming mobile. And you also brought up an interesting sort of OPSEC sort of security, like, do I have to use one phone that's able to connect to the internet to store my private keys versus another? And that kind of ties into the other uses of communicating with different types of infrastructure that you were just talking about, Gil. So it still sounds like that. It sounds like mobile apps are kind of the way of the future, but we still have a lot of questions that need to be resolved before we get there. And kind of like wrapping up, you guys have released the updated SDK. You guys have released the playground. There's so much work that has gone in behind what it is that we, the users, actually see. So given all the work that's been done, how do you guys plan to, and by you guys I mean AxLabs, how does AxLabs plan to market Neo3j and its suite of products? Are there workshops coming up? Are you planning on hosting competitions? Are there going to be any new interactive events on the horizon designed to attract new developers?
Maybe Claude can give like a word in the compiler, but let me bring something first. Yeah, this kind of a breaking news. You're in your podcast, Dylan. You're giving some breaking news because like the new playground was not really released, but we're reaching there. Actually, it's pretty good that you're mentioning the new playground. I think it's we want to expose more people, and then more people try. But so the new playground, it's a kind of an MVP at the moment. So it's something kind of separate than what we're doing in the Neo3j project with the SDK and compiler. And one of our goals is that once the new playground reaches a maturity level, we should focus on being the platform for tutorials, for workshops, for hackathons. This is like I've heard that maybe there will be a hackathon coming up like in the beginning of next year. So my wish, I told like Claude, we have to make it the possible and impossible to release something more major until like the end of the year or first month of 2021 that people can try the new playground. But I think just telling about the Neo3j project, I think that the SDK, it's an ongoing kind of work that we get feedback from users and adapt accordingly. What about the compiler? What's your view?
Well, the compiler is just as with the SDK. I think we have to be more active with marketing. I mean, it's good that you bring this up. Not that I can give you a lot of future events now, but that gives some pressure, or like it reminds me that first of all, I should probably take a marketing course because otherwise I'm not getting anywhere with what I'm doing in marketing. So we're looking to get into mostly local doing presentations and doing workshops at universities in Switzerland. We have done that previously, and we're still going into that direction. Currently, we're always looking for partners where we can fill their curriculum with a bit of Neo and Neo3j.
I think that about wraps up our time today. It was awesome to be able to bring both Claude and Gil onto the podcast. You guys have been behind the scenes doing great work for going on 2 years, and you know, it doesn't look like we're stopping anytime soon. So I'm just super excited to have been able to bring you guys on to the Neo News Today podcast to kind of give a platform for the awesome work that has been done with the compiler, the SDK, version 3.3, and to kind of spill the beans on the playground.
Exactly. That's good.
Maybe it wasn't, you didn't want to get it out there, today, but I think,
No. Like, let's put it out. Of course, let's move fast and let's accomplish things. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfection is the enemy of done.
Exactly.
So I just wanted to thank you guys so much for taking the time, coming onto the podcast, being our first 2-person interview. It was really great. Awesome discussion that we got to have, both kind of on the product suite, and we got to get a little higher level. So I'm hoping our Neo News Today podcast listeners enjoy this conversation as much as I enjoyed having it. So thank you guys so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks a lot, Dylan. Cheers. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Well, what did you think of that conversation? It was awesome to be able to introduce the community to Claude, who's been working on Neo3j for going on 2 years now. It was also great to be able to quote unquote announce the Neo Playground and learn a little more from Gil about how it seeks to integrate the work of other Neo developer communities in the ecosystem. Lastly, it was interesting to hear from Claude and Gil on their perspective on what blockchain mass adoption might look like and how we get there. To keep up to date with the latest in the Neo ecosystem, visit www.neonewstoday.com. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to our channels on YouTube, Apple iTunes, Google Podcasts, and or Spotify. and leave a 5-star review if you feel that others should hear our content. Every subscription and review helps others learn more about the Neo News Today podcast and the Neo ecosystem. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to the Neo News Today podcast, and we look forward to catching you next time.